Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for November 10th through 16th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 2 shows, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 1 book. We are back at the beautiful Frogmore pub, and silly me, I thought that I'd be able to get up first thing in the morning and just film here, but not only was it still dark, of course, but it was also 0 degrees Celsius. Now it's risen to a whole 5 degrees Celsius, which is why you might be able to see my breath. I certainly can. I also need to mention that as I'm filming this is not Sunday, this is Friday morning, and I'm filming it early because tomorrow, Saturday, I have to go to Vancouver because on Sunday, when this video goes up, I will actually be on a trans-Pacific flight. No one who hasn't already been told has so far guessed where we're going, but on Sunday we are flying to a completely different country I've never been to before, and I'm very excited for the trip. I also wanted to mention that we just announced the 14th round of the Queer Lit Readathon, so if you didn't see that video on Friday, I'll make sure it's linked down below as well. But let's get into what I did this week. First, I read The Fireborn Blade. This is a novella about this woman who is a knight and she is trying to hunt down a dragon so she can get a magical item, so she will basically regain some favor, because she had this situation where she fell in love with another knight and then he was leading her on, and then he was a jerk, there was a bit of a scuffle, and people are basically like, she's not a real knight. Which obviously women in that field anyway are looked down upon, and now she feels like she needs to regain some favor by finding this very specific artifact. So this book follows her doing that with her squire, but then also we see some flashbacks to see how she got into this circumstance, and altogether it's just a really interesting book. There is going to be a second one, it's not out yet, and I just need to know how this is going to end. The other book I read this week, to finish out the books I had borrowed from the library just before this trip, is Jasmine is Haunted. This is by Marco Shiro, and I love their books. I've read at least 1 or 2 before and just really enjoyed their writing. And this is a middle grade book about this girl named Jasmine who is haunted, you might be able to guess. She keeps having these situations where everywhere she and her mother move, things go wrong, and there's definitely all of the house starts going nuts. Doors will open and things will smash, and she just is really worried that people are going to think that she's causing all this damage when really she's haunted. When she gets to this new school, she meets some people in the GSA who believe her for the first time ever. Nobody's really believed when she's talked about ghosts before, and they try to figure out exactly what's going on with her. This was absolutely wonderful. The actual acronym GSA in this case doesn't actually stand for Gay Straight Alliance. It stands for Gays Supernatural Alliance, and I just found that a delightful little detail. And this was just lovely. I just really loved all of the circumstance of this. I really love these characters getting to know each other, figuring out everybody's backstories and then what was going on. It was just a good time. As for what I watched this week, we watched 3 episodes of Taskmaster, which means we only have 1 episode left for the current season, which would have aired yesterday, so Thursday, but doesn't go up on YouTube until typically 2 days later, so we might be able to watch it this week, and if we do, I'll tell you about it next week. This show just continues to be really, really fun, and I don't even ever really care who wins. I'm just excited to see the different tasks and how people are trying to do them because they make us laugh so hard. I also watched the first 3 episodes of a program I wasn't intending to sit down and watch, but my roommate was watching it, and that was called The Righteous Gemstones. This has a lot of people in it that you'll be like, hey wait, it's that guy again. And this is about this family who owns a mega church and just their dynasty of just that situation, how much money they're bringing in, and how there's a certain video that one of the sons of this family really doesn't want to get out, so he's trying to figure out if he should pay this blackmail money and what's going to go on with that circumstance, and it snowballs from there, and it gets very twisty-turny. Like I said, I only watched the first 3 episodes because she just happened to be watching it, and I actually didn't even see the first bit of the first episode. I probably sat down halfway through the first episode, but I found it very, very entertaining. As for the movies I watched, the first 2 are connected. They are Becky and The Wrath of Becky, and essentially Becky is a teenage girl. She's going through some stuff. Her mother has recently passed. Her father has something to tell her, which I think you can figure out what that's going to be. And they're on this kind of impromptu family vacation at their lake house when all of a sudden these people show up demanding that they search the property for this certain thing they need, which ends up being a key. Becky actually found this as a kid, so she has it in her fort, and she's kind of off away from the family when these people invade, and this basically becomes a female version of Home Alone, but way more violent and deadly. Although, Home Alone, super deadly. The Sticky Bandit should have died like 50 times over in the first movie alone because of all of the things that happened, but in this movie, there's definitely lots of blood, guts, gore, the bad guys go down. And then in The Wrath of Becky, she's just trying to live a normal life, and these guys do something that annoy her at work, so she spills coffee on one of them, totally by accident, but not really by accident. And then they decide to take it way too far, and again, it goes from there. These were really fun movies. I very much enjoyed them. The other movie we watched is something I had never heard of. Again, I just sat down as my roommate was putting it on, and I was like, what is this? And it's called My Old Ass. This is about this girl who has just graduated from high school somewhere in Ontario, and she's really excited because in 22 days she's moving to Toronto and she's gonna like have this life where she doesn't live and work on a cranberry farm. Her and two of her friends decide this is a perfect time to go camping one night and take some shrooms and just see what happens. And during that night, she has no idea what happens to her friends, but she meets her future self in the form of Aubrey Plaza, which I was very excited about. Her and her 39-year-old self talk about a lot of things, but one of the things that her older self definitely stresses is stay away from a guy named Chad, which when you're watching this with your partner who is named Chad, it just makes it way funnier because obviously they talk about Chad a bunch, and there was actually also a character in this named Kathy. It was the protagonist's mom, so it was just funny that both their names were there. And of course, soon after this camping trip, she does meet a guy named Chad. It's the first guy that she's ever been attracted to. She thought she was a lesbian, and now she's like questioning all of that. And it goes from there because that's not the only time her old ass shows up. Highly entertaining. I don't know how I feel about the ending because it kind of just ends and you're like, but what happened? I don't know. But like I said, very entertaining. As for the audiobook I listened to, this is actually a reread for me because I read this book physically earlier this year, and that is Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I mostly put a hold on this because I just assumed the audiobook was going to be amazing. I didn't even look into it. I didn't even know who the narrator was going to be, but I just assumed based on the book that I already loved and gave 5 stars to that I was going to enjoy the audio version, and I definitely did. This one has a full cast kind of situation. It's mostly narrated by one person, but there are these little vignettes that get narrated by other authors every once in a while, and it makes a lot of sense when you're actually in the world of what this book is. If you missed me talking about it the first time, this is about a man who writes for Hollywood, and basically his producers are like, it's much more lucrative for us if you either let these characters come out as queer like you were already going to do and kill them off, or you keep them straight. One or the other, you can't have the thing you actually want. And he's like, that's bullshit, I'm gonna do what I want. But then these scary creatures and characters that he created, because he mostly writes in the horror genre, start showing up in his life, trying to get him, and what's going on? Like I said, I already read this year, I gave it 5 stars, I absolutely loved it, and it was so fun to go back to it in this audio format. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you're here, just leave me an emoji or smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard, or you could even guess where we're going, because nobody's guessed yet. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!